Welcome to Let Us Explain on the Intercut podcast, the completely sporadic and unscheduled intercut supplement where we go all in on a piece of TV, movies, or entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he broke up with and got back together with his girlfriend 5 times. It's Arturo Zurita.
We had just done the Midsommar review, so that's why we were making fun of the fact that the more times you see the movie with your girlfriend, the more you start realizing, like, there's some things you maybe got to fix. We realized, though, Phantom Thread is our movie. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I think Phantom Thread may be our relationship movie. But I'm excited to be here.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
That's probably worse than Midsommar, right? At least they went on a vacation.
That,
yeah, but no, I'm excited to be here to talk some Stranger Things.
Yeah, also joining us on this intercut, Let Us Explain, he's hotter than Phoebe Cates.
Hey.
It's Taylor Williams.
Hello. I'm
like that.
I'm Taylor. I don't know how to introduce myself.
That's perfectly
that
serviceable.
nice baritone, deep voice. It makes me feel like Phoebe Cates is in the room, really.
Taylor is joining us to talk about Stranger Things Season 3 because we can't stop thinking about the latest installment from Netflix that apparently everybody's watching.
Everyone.
What we do here on After Credits on the Let Us Explain intercut thing is deep dive on something that we can't stop thinking about for other people who can't stop thinking about that thing too. That means we'll be talking about anything and everything, including spoilers, so you might want to wait until you've seen the show to watch our segment, or not if that's your thing. Mm-hmm. But before we jump into the spoiler zone, let's talk a little more generally about Stranger Things Season 3. We're back in Hawkins, and so is the Mind Flayer. This season, the dark creatures from the Upside Down are taking over the bodies of Hawkins residents and being manipulated by Russian scientists, but above ground, there's a new mall that everyone's excited about. Art, what struck you about the latest offering of Stranger Things?
One character. Maya Hawke's character. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Maya Hawke was really great on this as Robin.
Mm-hmm. As we got told yesterday, yeah, Robin. I think she was a standout character, not only because of the way that her arc ends up, I guess, coming to a climax, but she had the best line. She's got the only lines that I'm really quoting back, other than the new Coke ad, in where, she's always making fun of, I'm always forgetting his name, but they worked at Scoops Ahoy, and their whole setting there I thought was hilarious. They have the best costumes on, which they don't change, as opposed to freaking Elle, who we have a whole scene at the Gap just trying out new clothes.
Yeah, we get the classic 80s fashion montage.
Yeah, they created it's like, here we go.
Max.
Here's 50 new Pops, 50 new Funko Pop variants we can have of Elle as she was changing. I was like, I like the simplicity of these two over here, but just how blunt she was. She was always making fun of, what's his name? Steve for having, are your kids friends? Or any line that dealt with adults going like, why is a 4-year-old talking to me? I thought was funny because to me the funniest part...
How many children do you hang out with?
How do these adults in Hawkins feel? I see this, I don't know about you guys, but every time I get to the 4th or 5th episode, I'm just looking at the extras, the adults going, y'all don't even realize kids are saving your lives every year.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, it's like that Steve's mom line when they're looking for him at the carnival when Joyce and Hopper go and find Steve's mom, and she's just like, I haven't seen them in days. It's summer. Like, it's just such a completely different attitude towards parenting than I think what we're used to as kids of the 90s. But,
that's
I guess
80s.
that was the thing where
that's what it follows,
you let the kids run around. And,
you just don't pay attention to them.
Maybe they're stopping Russian invasions and we just don't know about it.
Can't interfere with that.
Taylor, you mentioned that you also liked the the Scoops Ahoy crew.
Chips Ahoy. Could be a flavor.
What was it about that whole dynamic, do you think, that made it some of the most entertaining parts of the new season?
I don't know. I mean, back in Season 2, having Steve and Dustin pair up was kind of a really unexpected thing that ended up being really entertaining. So
yeah. I
think the audience response to that was really... They were kind of like, I think we have to have these characters back again this season. But I think having more characters and making it a full group made it feel a little not like they were trying to just like redo what they did in Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, they clearly found a dynamic that works well in matching Steve and Dustin. They've got this like older brother, younger brother dynamic that's really fun. So it was cool to let them continue to develop that relationship in this third season, but not have it just be another adventure with just the two of them, by bringing in Robin, who is a really cool character, played excellently by Maya Hawke, by bringing in Erica, who I thought they overdid her a little bit this season in making her that bratty little sister thing. Yeah, like she's both like always got a one-liner and has this vast knowledge of different government capitalist economy. Yeah, but
they did that for her and her brother, which I know we'll talk a little bit because her brother ends up doing new codes.
Oh, yeah.
Like they give him practically lines that are meant to like break the fourth wall or something. But yeah.
We'll get into some of the Stranger Things product placements in a bit, but talking still a little bit more generally about this season. Taylor, in your video, which is a great video, go check out his channel for more of Taylor's thoughts on the most recent installment of Stranger Things. You mentioned that Stranger Things is increasingly feeling more like a TV show. What do you mean by that? Could you expand on that?
Yeah, when the first season came out, I thought it could have ended where it ended and just been a standalone thing.
And I believe that's what they initially had intended, for it to just be part of an anthology series, and
that would have been sick.
Yeah,
new Stranger
I've
Thing
heard
every
a lot
season.
Of people saying it should be an anthology, which could be cool. But yeah, with TV writing, it's very clear, like, the first season they had just a story in mind, and it spanned 8 episodes. That was just the time frame, but it felt like a singular thing. But, what's really common in TV writing is you have to, take the same characters that you have, contractually obligated to be in the show, and you have to give them all, stuff to do, so that the actors have a reason to be there. And so you can kind of feel that a lot more in the past 2 seasons. It's more about what do we do to give these characters stuff to do rather than what is this story. So I guess it just feels a little less organic and more like they have to stick to this formula and keep these characters doing stuff.
Certainly there are a lot more like contrived elements as the show has come along, and you see them trying out different dynamics. In some cases it works, like matching up Steve and Dustin. In other cases it doesn't seem quite as organic, and I thought you had mentioned this in your video, that Max and Billy felt a little superfluous in the second season, whereas maybe given a whole season to integrate themselves, I thought their roles were a little bit better in season 3. I liked the dynamic between Max and Mike, both kind of fighting to be the protector of Elle in a way, like the person who looks after and thinks they know what's best for Elle. But it's not all. It doesn't necessarily. It does get into that idea of why is everything about these guys? Why does everything continue to revolve around them? Why is it that when 4 children get caught in a Russian government facility, that they somehow are the only people who can orchestrate their own escape? Like they really, there are certain contrivances that feel super convenient. And overall, what bothered me most about season 3 is how easy a lot of the different challenges felt for them. I haven't felt that way in the past with Stranger Things, where they get to an obstacle and you just know they're going to get out of it. Obviously, it's a TV show and it's going to have to continue on, but you want to set up goals that feel like they're actual challenges for your characters.
How would you guys rate the seasons? Because for me, it's still season 2A was my favorite. I was like, because I didn't care for season 1 at all. Then season 2 comes around and everyone's complaining about it, and I was like, it's not that bad. Then episode 7 happens, but how would you rate them between season 1, 2, and 3? And do you does season 3 give you more hope for the future, or do you feel it's going to continue being this thing that you said of just like contrivances, and now the actors are going to need more money, which means there's going to be there definitely needs to be more time for certain people on screen and stuff?
I really loved season 1 a lot.
Okay.
Like, I was kind of hyped for it when the first trailer came out, and no one was really talking about it. And I think I watched it all in a day or two, like most people did. And I was like, I don't know, I was really impressed by it because the marketing beforehand wasn't really, like, people kind of forget, it just came out of nowhere and was a thing that people started talking about just because it was really good. Now it's marketed everywhere, and Netflix realizes what they have. But when it came out, it was kind of a neat little surprise. So, and I still think season 1 is just really airtight, and everything falls in place in a way that I was really happy with. Seasons 2 and 3, I think, are both, there's a wide gap in quality between season 1 and seasons 2 and 3. And it's a little hard to differentiate which one I like more between those two, because I like them for different reasons.
Makes sense.
I think they definitely have a formula now, and moving forward, they're gonna have to, have some ace up their sleeve to make it feel fresh. Because I think the biggest thing that made this season feel fresh was the mall as like a central set piece.
Totally.
And without that, I think the season would have felt really, not really paving any new ground, I suppose.
Yeah. You want to know what it reminds me a lot of? Or go ahead, Zach.
I mean, I was just going to add to that I agree that season 1 is my favorite. I don't know if I have as wide of a gap between the seasons as Taylor does. I'd say that season 3 is my second favorite, if only because it felt a little bit more of a piece, I think. Something that struck me about season 3 is how condensed a lot of the plotting is. It almost feels like one of those long night movies where it just things happen leading into one another, and your characters get no break, they get no rest in between, and that kind of gave it a fun energy to me that made me like it more than season 2, as well as some of the other elements of it. But yeah, season 1 is still far and away the best. But what were you going to say, Art?
Dude, it reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead. I don't know why.
Really?
Because the way you were describing season 1 and how you thought it was its own contained thing, like, yeah, we've seen 80s stuff before, but this still came in and did its thing. Yeah, we had seen zombies and all this stuff, but when The Walking Dead season 1 came out and it was its tight 6 episodes by Frank Darabont,
yeah.
I still stand that's some of the best in television. I still remember seeing those. It was junior year, at some point in high school. I was like, yo, this show is insane. It was on AMC. Then season 2 happened, and there's a bunch of videos covering and how it had to double up its episodes, and you can see like the quality went down. There was stuff from the actors, and then after 3, 4, 5, 6, we have The Walking Dead. At a certain point, I wonder, seeing the marketing blast that The Walking Dead had. Remember when The Walking Dead had the brand new Hyundai Subaru or whatever it was that came in for like the 3rd season? You're like, nah, it was a zombie apocalypse. They stopped creating these.
Yeah.
I do wonder what Stranger Things is going to end up doing when it comes to, some of the future stuff. When it comes to the actors needing more roles, and especially here being the case that they're all kids.
Yeah.
They're killing off the adults faster than they are the kids. You know. But the kids are all still here, and they're about to reach that like pivotal point where they're all going to want to do something else and not be stuck to this. And I feel that's going to be a way different dynamic than The Walking Dead and the adults wanting to leave. But it sounds the same to me. Season 1's incredible. Then season 2 goes somewhere else. Season 3 they had the prison. Season 3 they had the mall. I wonder how they're going to take it.
You're starting to sell me on this comparison.
I'm telling you, dude.
I think what Stranger Things has that The Walking Dead doesn't is an actual deadline. I know they've actually...
Explain.
I know they can always go back on their word, but they have publicly said they only have... I don't remember if it's 4 or 5, but they have a...
I think they've been waffling between 4 and 5.
Really?
But they have a cap in sight, whereas The Walking Dead has just been meandering
that's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, never ending.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's the one thing that gives me a little more hope. But like I sort of said in my
Until
video,
you hear
there's
the
no
announcement
sense
for
of-
6, and then you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, they could totally do that, and that's because it's so Monster of the Week now. They really...
I feel like they have to. Like, think of everything that's happening with Netflix. They're going to need to keep something. Look at what happened with Rick and Morty. Have we even seen after that deal broke?
Well, I think they're they're starting to unveil them.
That's
now.
insane.
There's gonna be a season 4 in like August or something. But
Exactly.
How many episodes did they sign in that deal? Like 80?
70 something? Yeah, 80 something.
80 something.
It's insane. And you think of it for everything else. What's happening with even movie series? Harry Potter? Let's go back to prequels. Star Wars. We're going to get a new Star Wars show. HBO with...
I'm sure Netflix would like to generate more and more Stranger Things content as all these companies race towards expanding different sorts of IP. That being said, this show does feel like it has a lifespan. I don't know if you can really make it so Monster of the Week forever, and I think it is so intertwined to these characters being children that once they really do age out of being young, you might not be able to continue the show. That's why, to me, it only makes sense to continue it for like 1 or 2 more years. Otherwise, you got to get like a whole new group of kids in there somehow. Maybe they're setting up Nancy and Charlie Heaton to have a kid later or something, but I don't know.
They'd be 4 years old, solving crimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's open this thing up to some Stranger Things spoilers. If you can't handle the truth, or if you haven't seen the show, now's your chance to go and watch spoiler-free editions of the Intercut podcast. They're all over this channel, youtube.com/intercutpod, or subscribe to the audio feed. But let's get into some of the things that happen. We talked a little bit about this idea of the Monster of the Week and the returning Mind Flayer. They do a new thing with the Mind Flayer this season in which he kind of takes over bodies, and I thought it was a pretty cool effect, the way that they have these bodies decomposing at different points of the show. It also lends itself to giving Billy more to do, as they kind of make Billy the voice of the Mind Flayer. Mm-hmm. Taylor, you've mentioned in the past that Billy has sort of felt a bit more tangential to the show. Did you like that they were able to both give the villain a voice and give Billy something to do in this 3rd season?
I liked both of those things, because Billy's kind of been my least favorite character in the whole show, and last season he was all he really did was like beat up Steve and seduce Mrs. Wheeler. So
he was good looking.
It was fun, but the show started to lose me there. So this season, I'm glad they made him essential to the plot and gave him a reason to be there. But I do still have a few problems with it, because the way it happens is very coincidental. It kind of just chooses him of all people, and there's no skinish. Even though he's part of the group, or someone pointed out in the comments that I complained about both the fact that they've added a bunch of new characters, but also that the same things keep happening to the same people.
Right.
And I don't think those are like mutually exclusive issues. I think the show is kind of messing up both things, because last season it introduced new characters that aren't inherently related to the plot, and then it's just because they're friends with the main characters that they're then added to the plot. And then there's still, now that Billy's been introduced, it's still coincidental that the Mind Flayer chooses him to be the lead flayed person. So I feel like there's a lot that I feel like with some more restructuring in the script, they could have the new additions be added because they have some essential tension or addition in some way, and the show just hasn't really been doing that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But Art, what did you?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for you, Taylor. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for you.
Okay.
No, I agree with you. I would rather it be good-looking Billy than the lady who was eating the rats. All of a sudden, be like another
manure.
The eating the manure stuff, because it's like, hey, I'm a random person. I'm gonna be the main character. Nah, that rat lady, I needed her once, gone after the fact. But I do agree with you. It's sort of like, so this is the sister of the person who it needed to be, and it's going to be a lot easier for this person to attract people. Let's do that. For me, it's always been the same thing when it comes just to the homages, I guess. Like Terminator. I've seen this already, and I'm going to see it later this year. Terminator, whatever the heck's coming out, you know? I'm looking at what Billy's doing, and it was scarier and under the skin. I'm seeing,
It's not... this is a show that is largely made up of homages, and I don't know
Check
if
their
the
Twitter,
idea
yeah.
of an homage inherently that's bad, but when the homage does nothing but make you think, oh yeah, that's kind of like the thing.
If you can
You
still
know,
give
like-
me emotion, sure. But the emotion is coming off your Easter eggs. And then your
Yeah.
Easter eggs are being confused as product placement, or your product placement is being confused as Easter eggs. And that's where I'm a little concerning, because a lot of the emotional points, like Hopper died, and all I'm just thinking, I was like, yeah, y'all had him eat Burger King the whole week because he has to go do Hellboy.
Right, like the discount Arnold Schwarzenegger that they cast as that like faux Terminator, even though his entire plot of the season is basically getting beat up by Hopper, even though Hopper also gets beat up. Like, he's not that much of an unstoppable force since he never really kills any of the people we know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't know. For some things like that, it doesn't work as well. You mentioned the Hopper death, though. Do we want to get into that? The key emotional moment from the end of this third season?
Did that do anything for you guys?
I wasn't too moved by it. It kind of just... I also don't fully buy into them actually killing him off.
Right. Like, I found the content of his letter and the way it was arranged on screen to be, like, emotionally satisfying, but I had this lingering thing in the back of my head saying Hopper's not dead.
If that's the case, I'm not watching season 4.
What?
That's dumb. How would he even come back?
I don't know, man.
Everybody is saying that
Some
he's
shit,
the American at the end of the credits in that last episode. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know how they would justify that. There also have been some hints about potential time travel in the next season. They spend a lot of the third season watching Back to the Future. I don't know what they're going to do, but I just can't imagine this show continuing without David Harbour.
I really hope there's no time travel.
Yeah, then they're going 6 seasons. No, they're going 10 seasons. And they might as well just have Hopper come back and just say that it's a tie dad. Like, at that point, if you're just going to bring somebody back who just straight up died, I don't know what else to do with that. But Taylor had brought up a great point with this. He had mentioned the mall in one of his tweets, and he had talked about kind of what the mall was supposed to represent in the show, and then how it was being used for marketing. And I think that's been an interesting thing when it comes to Stranger Things, is that as much as it wants to be in the 80s, it's not just commercials, it's their own Twitter stuff. Like, there are how many accounts for Stranger Things? There's Stranger Things, there's Stranger Things in Spanish, there's Stranger Things writers, there's the Stranger Thing, there's like a different subset for all of them. And it's been interesting to get like an insight of the episodes, especially from the writer's perspective, who have come out and said, you guys have missed something in episode 3. And everyone keeps guessing what it is. And they ended up tweeting out a whole thread of Easter eggs from that episode. And it almost made me go, so y'all wrote 1 page of original content then? Because everything ended up being an Easter egg. But there's a thing between like what ends up being, what's it called? Stuff that's like in the scene, right? So
Diegetic.
It's like, is this lamp that I have right here, if you guys can see it, part of the set design because I'm in, I don't know, say I was in the 90s and the Bulls are doing good, or am I having it here because it's part of it's on purpose, I'm expecting you to get an emotion out of it.
You're hoping, or you're hoping to
exactly.
sell that lamp at Walmart.
Exactly.
Granted.
So as the writers pretty much said, it's like, if it wasn't something that they were selling, it was literally something they wanted to get an emotion out of. So they would punch in on Reeboks or anything else, and I was like, oh. Is there a talent when it comes to like being able to find all that stuff? I'd say so.
I think so.
The Ready Player One people who got hired. I mean, those are people
Right.
who know that decade. They know that generation. They know that entire pop culture thing. I mean, VH1 had that series, I Heart the 80s, that I know used to be on all the time. So there is a love for this, and it is a craft in and of itself. But I wonder, is this allowed to be nominated for Emmys if it's just repackaging?
I mean, it's not unoriginal stuff. It's put together in original package. Like, I get the idea that it's very derivative, but all of our culture is derivative, at least to a degree. That doesn't necessarily mean like
it makes me question.
Avatar's not going to get nominated for awards because it's the same plot as Pocahontas. Like,
it shouldn't get nominated at all. But I do wonder, do you think like the Terminator homage, at what point can it be considered an homage, and at what point do you get the criticism Tarantino gets? But he's so far removed from his references from the 40s and 50s, even 70s. But like the '80s ones, unless it's like a direct homage, at what point is it like, okay, this is the same emotion from Terminator? This is the same thing as season 1, E.T.
Well,
I think Taylor, you go.
I think what was great about season 1, I think there is a lot of gray area in terms of how much credit the writers get for having emotional stuff, and how much is just them taking the pathos of the series they're homaging or whatever. But I do think in general, because season 1 is so concretely 3 specific archetypes, I think it's in each of those just a successful 80s kids movie, a successful teen slasher flick, murder mystery. Like each of them is self-contained, a narratively satisfying story, and that's because of the genre tropes. And I think at this point the story has become kind of homogenized, and the homages are sprinkled around, so you don't get the same pathos as season 1 got, because it's just taking the look of these tropes and not the fundamental stuff that they used to be taking.
I'll agree with you there.
Right.
I know one of the things you brought up at the end was how they in a sense subvert that with the idea of like at the end they're not all really like they're together, but it ends in like, okay, they've all got their own little spaces right now. Hopper's dead. The kids may not be as united as they were before, but you had even brought up they're at a point right now with the second half of this series, if they do go 4, 5, maybe 6, do you think 4 and 5 have the ability to be even better?
So here's the thing with 4 and 5. I think they've done a lot in season 3 to potentially set up 4 to be something new and interesting. We've talked about how it's feeling a little bit repetitive, and I don't know if there's a whole lot more you can do in Hawkins. Like, it's this one small town. We're a long way from Hopper saying that mornings are for coffee and contemplation. You know, shit's happening constantly on this show. But now we have, with the end of season 3, Joyce, Will, and 11 moving out of Hawkins. Where are they going? Potentially going to a bigger city.
Chicago.
We have the inclusion of these Russians and all these and the idea of 11 not having her powers at the end of the season, which that's been the one thing to save them again and again from this existence of the Mind Flayer. I think there's enough potential threads that they could give us a 4th season that doesn't feel like more of the same. Doesn't mean it's gonna feel different though.
Yeah. I believe in them. I think that they might have something up their sleeve, only because we've talked about is when it comes to franchises, when it comes to long movies, and especially with TV series, that at this point you've been so invested in the characters, all the stakes are higher. If they have the balls to pull any of them, the stakes are higher because you've known these characters for so long. These aren't the same ones from season 1. They have season 1, 2, 3, then whatever else they got next. Do you think they're going to bring back that episode 7 from season 2? Depending on where they move, depending on, I don't know if it's
Taylor?
time travel or something else.
I feel like because they set it up, it's like too important of a thing for them to just not bring up again. Like there's so many other.
They ignored it for all of season 3.
But it was not
no
once mentioned in season 3.
Yeah, I think they read the room and realized that people did not like that episode.
Wait, are you guys fans of that episode?
No.
No.
Okay, because I hate that episode.
No,
I rewatched it again looking
terrible.
for Elena. I was like, this is trash.
It
that
doesn't
dude
bring
pretending
anything.
to sound like the Joker. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how they will incorporate it, if they can fix it, if they can do something better with it. I'm also interested to see if we're saying they're going to go 2 more years, does that mean it's going to be 86, 87? Because they have gone per year, 83, 84, 85. I've found that very interesting.
In all likelihood.
I think they should have done more with 85. I feel like 85 was a much bigger pop culture year. I know as much as I'm complaining about the product placement, I feel like JCPenney and Gap, out of everything that happened in 1985, should have seen a Bears Shuffle there. Aren't they in Indiana?
Mm-hmm.
I should have seen a Bears Shuffle going somewhere. It was 85. Come on.
I feel like they've got a the opposite problem of X-Men, where X-Men is like, it's been 30, 40 years in universe
decade
time,
stuff.
and they all look
Yeah.
the exact same age.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Canonically,
yeah.
there are only like what, 8 months between the events of season 2 and season 3, because season
Yeah.
3 is in the summer.
And they've aged 3 years or so.
Yeah, and they look so much older. So I feel like the only way they can justify, like they sort of have to keep doing year by year just because of the kids aging so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's another thing that could potentially make it hard to do some kind of time travel idea. The kids are going to be a lot harder to make look like they're young again.
Yeah.
It could be interesting.
Yeah, I think they still have some threads to pull. I do think that the most interesting aspects of the show have always been when it focuses more on the relationship dynamics, when it focuses more on the small town aspect of this. I really loved the moment in season 3 when Will is kind of realizing that his friends are growing up without him. We all have that experience of either you just get interested in something before your friend, or your friend like starts
Will,
going
bro.
out and dating girls, and you're just want to play video games or
I just
something.
want to play D&D.
And I thought that was a really cool element that actually reckons with the idea that this is a kid who was like robbed of some part of his childhood, and is trying to grab
true.
it back. When the show is focused on stuff like that, when the show is focused on the Starcourt Mall taking business away from all the mom and pop shops and closing down Main Street, I think that's much more interesting than any of the Upside Down stuff. So I'm hoping that that's going to continue to be a focus of the show, and they don't convolute it with too much of the mythology behind the Mind Flayer and stuff, because that stuff doesn't add up as well to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's a Death Star. When I saw it pop out yet again at the end, I was like, this feels like a Death Star.
Yeah.
It's always a Death Star. But that's all I got to say to it. I'm hoping that they jump into the future. Maybe we can get some 90s stuff somewhere in there. It'd be insane.
There's no way they
Taylor,
go 90s.
Taylor, do you have any hopes for season 4 or the future of Stranger Things?
I just hope they establish some sense of all this Upside Down stuff has an end point, or an overarching, just something, so it doesn't feel like each season is just another thing popping out of the Upside Down monster generator.
Totally.
Makes sense.
All right, so I think that's about all for this edition of Let Us Explain on Intercut. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich, and check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplexshow. Taylor, let the people know where they can catch more from you.
All right, well, my YouTube channel is my name, Taylor J. Williams. On Twitter, I'm Taylor Film Guy, Letterboxd as well. Instagram, Taylor_J_Williams. That's about all I have to plug.
And check out his
Cool.
Stranger Things video, too. He's got that
yeah.
out there.
Yeah, just
Check that
posted
bad
it
boy out.
yesterday.
We'll make sure to link that in the description down below. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at the A to Z show, pretty much on everything. Also at Let Me Explain, we will have a Stranger Things video coming out as well. The audacity of Stranger Things is what I'm calling it. But definitely check out, again, Taylor's video. We got this up. We also have some other videos out that are Let Us Explains, like Midsommar and stuff, that you can catch right here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well. YouTube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Thursday. And please leave a comment, like the video. Consider heading over to Apple Podcast and giving us that sweet 5-star love. We love when you get those 5-star reviews on our podcast. It does a lot to help the show. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at Intercut Pod. That's at Intercut Pod. That's short for podcast. To get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from Taylor, and all the guests here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, he's here.
Was that for Stranger Things?
Yeah.
The neck
So
Will's Spidey sense.
that they show
Bro, I
50
cannot-
times.